Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Srimad Vishnudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hadi Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita. Sirupa Sanatana Bhattarona. Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasarana. Chaya Goshai Kori Sharana Vandan. Yaha Hoite Vignanas Abhishta Puran. Chaya Goshai Jai Murita Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki. Srila Prabhupada ki. So, if I could get a little bit of light here, it would be nice. So, I wanted to read today from Antya Lila. Antya Lila, Volume 4. This chapter is entitled Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Feelings of Separation from Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us the following summary of this chapter. That he says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feelings of separation from Krishna resulted in highly elevated transcendental madness. When he was standing near the Garuda Stamba and praying to Lord Jagannath, one woman from Orissa put her foot on the Lord's shoulders in her great eagerness to see Lord Jagannath. At that moment, Govinda, who was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant, he chastised the lady for this. He said, "Are you crazy? You put your foot on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shoulder." But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised her eagerness. Whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the temple of Lord Jagannath, he was absorbed in ecstatic love and saw only Krishna. And as soon as he perceived this woman, however, his external consciousness immediately returned and he saw Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also saw Krishna in a dream and he was overwhelmed with ecstatic love. And when he could no longer see Krishna, he compared himself to a yogi and described how that yogi was seeing Vrindavan. Sometimes all the transcendental ecstatic symptoms were manifest in him. One night, Govinda and Swarup Damodar noticed that although the 3 doors to the Lord's room were closed and locked, the Lord was not present inside. Seeing this, Swarup Damodar and the other devotees went outside and they saw Lord Chaitanya lying unconscious by the Simhadwar gate. His body had become unusually long and the joints of his bones were loose. The devotees gradually brought Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his senses by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and then they took him back to his residence. Once, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also mistook Chataka Parvata, that is a hill. He mistook this hill for Govardhan. And as he ran towards it, he became stunned. And then 8 ecstatic transformations appeared in his body due to his great love for Krishna. At that time, all the devotees chanted the Hare Krishna mantra to pacify him. Kaviraj Goswami continues. I shall now describe a very small portion of the activities performed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his mind intelligence and body when he was bewildered by strong feelings of separation from Krishna. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All glories to Lord Gaurachandra, the life and soul of his devotees. All glories to Lord Nityananda, who is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's very life. And all glories to Advaita Acharya, who is extremely dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All glories to Swarup Damodar and the devotees headed by Srivas Thakur. Please give me the strength to describe the character of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think at the time of Krishna Das Kaviraj writing writing Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, he was over 100 years old. That's why he's offering this prayer here. Give me the strength so I can finish this book. He's in the Antya Lila. Then he says, how can I describe unfathomable subject matters? It is possible only if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives me the capability. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, they recorded all of these transcendental activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in their notebooks. In those days, Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami lived with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, whereas all other commentators were living far away from him. So they're given eyewitness account. And Kaviraj Goswami consulted their notebooks to write Chaitanya Charitamrita, especially these ecstatic manifestations of the Lord in separation. Prabhupada gives a purport. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental feelings of separation from Krishna and his consequent madness are not at all understandable by a person on the material platform. Nevertheless, a so-called party of devotees named Nadia Nagari has sprung up and introduced the worship of Vishnu Priya. This certainly indicates their ignorance concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes. In the opinion of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, such worship is a product of their imagination. There are many other methods of worshiping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu which have also been introduced by so-called devotees, but they have all been rejected by the serious, stalwart devotees like Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The groups who are practicing these unauthorized methods of worship have been listed by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur as follows: Aula, Baula, Karta Bhaja, Neda, Daravesha, Shani, Sahajya, Sakibeki, Smarta, Jata Goshai, Ativadi, Chudahari, and Gauranga Nagari. Each of them is a different group, unauthorized group. Bhaktisiddhanta would refer to them as Apasampradaya. They are not in line with the Sampradaya. Sampradaya. Swarup Damodar Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami personally witnessed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities firsthand, and they recorded them in 2 notebooks. Therefore, without reference to these notebooks, one cannot understand the activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who is inventing some new method for worshipping Mahaprabhu is certainly unable to understand the Lord's pastimes. For those people are bereft of the real process of approaching the Lord. And besides that, Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami, besides those 2, there were others who recorded Mahaprabhu's activities. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur believes that the people of the world would benefit greatly if such notes were available. The notes of Raghunath Das Goswami and Swarup Damodar. But it is a most unfortunate situation for human society that none of these notebooks are still existing. We can only lament. Kaviraj Goswami continues. These 2 great personalities, Swarup Damodar and Raghunath Das Goswami, recorded the activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu moment by moment. They described these activities briefly as well as elaborately in their notebooks. Prabhupada comments, for future reference, we should always remember that Swarup Damodar Goswami, he recorded the pastimes briefly, whereas Raghunath Das Goswami recorded them elaborately.
The first part was done by the Adi. Adi was done by Murari Gupta or Mukunda?
He contacted, Krishna Kaviraj, he consulted Murari Gupta and Mukunda. Murari Gupta was Mahaprabhu's childhood friend. And he came to Puri also. And Mukunda was also his classmate. So they had a lot of association with Mahaprabhu. So Kaviraj Goswami, coming after, he thought, I have to consult with them. They were there. And so he wrote Chaitanya, the early parts, Adi Lila, and so on. But concerning the Antya Lila, the final, later pastimes, Swarup Damodar, and he was always with Mahaprabhu. Two associates, Swarup Damodar and Govinda, they were always with Mahaprabhu. Govinda was like his personal servant. And he said they were always with him. So they recorded, Prabhupada says, these 2 great personalities, they simply recorded the facts. They did not create any descriptive literary embellishment. There's a tendency to do things like that. But these associates of Mahaprabhu, they didn't do that. As it is. Swarup Damodar Goswami, he wrote short codes, whereas Raghunath Das Goswami, he wrote elaborate descriptions. But I will now describe Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's activities elaborately, as if it is fluffing out of compressed cotton. Kaviraj Goswami continues. Please hear faithfully this description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic emotions, and thus you will come to know of his ecstatic love, and ultimately you will achieve love of Godhead. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt separation from Krishna, his condition corresponded to the condition of the gopis in Vrindavan. After Krishna's departure for Mathura. So when Krishna left Mathura, Krishna and Balaram, he took them Akura. The gopis were devastated, to say the least. Not only gopis, all the Brajavasis, all the residents. But the gopis were suffering the most. They tried to block the chariot, throw themselves in front of it. It wouldn't, And Nanda Maharaj, in order for them to go, he went along with them, with Krishna and Balaram. And he promised the gopis, I will bring him back personally. I will bring him back personally. Take my word. So let us go. But he never brought, he came back alone. And they never got to see Krishna again for something like 50 years. That's a long time. So many things happen. Like here in Mayapur. 30 years ago, this place was, from what I've heard, there were hundreds of devotees. It was wonderful, big community. After 30 years now, it's a small handful in comparison. So you can imagine in Vrindavan, Krishna stayed away they didn't get to see him for 50 years. And when they saw him, it was at Kurukshetra. But they were only crying. It said, Kaviraj Goswami says, the lamentation of Srimati Radharani when Uddhava visited Vrindavan gradually became a feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental madness. He would think about the visit that Uddhava had with Radharani. Srimati Radharani's emotions after seeing Uddhava exactly corresponded to those of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He always conceived of himself in her position. And sometimes he actually thought that he was Srimati Radharani herself. It is said that his Shikshastakam, that final verse of Shikshastakam, Asli Shava Padaratam Pinashtuman Adarshanam Marmahatam Karutva. Commentators have said that is Radharani speaking. She's saying, you can trample me, handle me roughly, you can make me broken-hearted by not appearing before me, but still, you are always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. This is Radharani's mood of separation. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains this Prabhupada's purport. He explains of the word in this last verse, Abhiman. Abhiman means self-conception. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati explained that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought himself to be in the position of Srimati Radharani and was always ready to render service. in that way. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself, he assumed the complexion and emotions of Srimati Radharani, and he remained in that status. He never assumed the complexion or status of Krishna. He never turned black, blue. He stayed always. Of course, Krishna wanted to experience the role of Srimati Radharani, and that is the original cause of his assuming this body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, pure Vaishnavas never disturb Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's conception of being Srimati Radharani. Unfortunately, at the present time, there is a group of so-called devotees who maintain that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the enjoyer and that they are also enjoyers as well. They have actually deviated from devotional service to the Lord because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested himself to show that cultivation of love for Krishna in separation is the easiest way of success for all living entities. Despite this fact, there are some theosophists who declare that because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such cultivation is easy for him, but difficult for living entities, and therefore one should approach Krishna in any way one likes. But to nullify this idea, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu demonstrated practically how one can achieve love of Krishna by adopting Srimati Radharani's mood in separation from Krishna. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami continues, such is the state of transcendental madness. Why is it difficult to understand? When one is highly elevated in love of Krishna, he becomes transcendentally mad and talks like a madman. When the ecstatic emotion of enchantment gradually progresses, it becomes similar to bewilderment. And then one reaches the stage of astonishment, which awakens transcendental madness. Different symptoms like Udgurna and Chitrajalpa are two amongst the many divisions of transcendental madness. Chitrajalpa. There's Prajalpa and there's Chitrajalpa. Chitrajalpa is talking like a madman. It's not understandable by ordinary people. One day, while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was resting, he dreamed that he saw Krishna performing his rasa dance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Krishna standing with his beautiful body curved in 3 places, holding a flute to his lips. He was wearing yellow garments and garlands of forest flowers. He was enchanting even to Cupid. Therefore he is called Madan Mohan. The gopis were dancing in a circle and Krishna was in the middle of that circle, dancing with Srimati Radharani. Seeing this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed with transcendental mellows and he thought, now I am with Krishna in Vrindavan. But when Govinda, his servant, saw that the Lord had not yet risen, he woke him, understanding that he had been dreaming. The Lord was somewhat unhappy. After all, he was in Vrindavan. He was witnessing Krishna's dancing. Somebody wakes him up. You're having a dream like that. You don't want to be waking up. It is said that one of the times when Mahaprabhu went into a trance and the devotees he disappeared, he would sometimes, they would lock him up in his room. It said there, we read there were 3 doors so that he wouldn't get out. So he wouldn't get out. They locked the door outside. And then they go and open the door and find he's not in there. How would he get out? When they find him somewhere, he's in a trance, his body is undergoing changes. And Swarup Damodar would go and chant Hare Krishna loudly in his ears. When he woke up, he said, I was with Krishna, but I heard some noise. It woke me up. The Swarup Damodar's chanting was like a noise to wake him up. Anyway, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed his customary daily duties, and as usual, at the same time, he would go to see Lord Jagannath in the temple. As he viewed Lord Jagannath, he stood behind the Garuda Stamba. It's a column. Distance, so he would stand to look at Jagannath from there. There were hundreds and thousands of people in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking darshan of the deities. Suddenly, one woman from Orissa, unable to see Lord Jagannath because of the crowd, thousands of people, she climbed on this column, the Garuda Stamba, placing her foot on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shoulder. She's holding on to the Stamba and her foot's on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shoulder. When he saw this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal secretary, Govinda, told her, get down! Get down! Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, chastised Govinda. He said, no, what are you doing? Hear what he said. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Govinda, oh, you uncivilized man. Adivasya, you uncivilized man. Do not forbid this woman to climb on the Garuda Stamba. Let her see Lord Jagannath to her satisfaction. Prabhupada gives a little purport. Because Garuda is the carrier of Lord Vishnu, he is the supreme Vaishnava. And therefore, to touch his body with one's feet, or to climb on the column of Garuda, that is certainly a Vaishnava Haraj. But this woman, she was also being offensive to Krishna by putting her foot on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's shoulder. Therefore, seeing this, Govinda was quick to chastise him, tell him, get down. But Mahaprabhu chastised him. You uncivilized person. When the woman came to her senses, I guess she was in some kind of ecstasy, standing. When she came to her senses, she quickly climbed back down the column onto the ground, and seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, she immediately begged forgiveness at his lotus feet, humbly. She didn't know she was standing on the sannyasi. Seeing the woman's eagerness, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Lord, you are very fortunate. Lord Jagannath has not bestowed so much eagerness upon me. So he only saw the good of her activity, the bhav. Prabhupada comments, this woman was so eager to see Lord Jagannath that she forgot she was offending the feet of a Vaishnava by climbing on the column of Garuda. And she also neglected to consider that by putting her foot on the shoulder of Mahaprabhu, that she was offending the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These two offenses are both grievous offenses that displease the Lord and the Vaishnavas. But she was so eager to see Lord Jagannath that she committed these offenses. Obviously, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu praised her eagerness. He regretted that, oh, Lord Jagannath had not bestowed such eagerness upon me. Mahaprabhu continued, she has fully absorbed her body, mind and life in Lord Jagannath, and therefore she was unaware that she was putting her foot on my shoulder. So it wasn't like she deliberately wanted to stand on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. She was just absorbed in a trance. And Mahaprabhu continued, alas, how fortunate this woman is. I pray at her feet that she may favor me with her great eagerness to see Lord Jagannath. Just previous to this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been seeing Lord Jagannath as the son of Nanda Maharaj. When he looked at Jagannath, he saw Krishna in person. Vrajanjanandana. And becoming fully absorbed in that vision, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had assumed the mood of the gopis. So much so that everywhere he looked, he would see Krishna standing with his flute to his lips. After seeing this woman, the Lord's external consciousness returned, and then instead he saw the original deity forms of Jagannath, Subhadra and Balaram. So while he was taking darshan, he was seeing Vrajanjanandana. When he saw the deities, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thought he was seeing Krishna in Kurukshetra. And he wondered aloud, here I come to Kurukshetra, where is Vrindavan? Jagannath Puri is considered Kurukshetra, right? And when the Ratiyatra festival, then they bring in Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, the Gundicha temple, that is considered Vrindavan. Yeah. Right?
Yes, yes.
So Here Mahaprabhu is saying, why have I come to Kurukshetra? When he came back to, you could call it external consciousness, seeing Jagannath. He says, where is Vrindavan? I only want to see that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu grew very agitated, like a person who has just lost a recently acquired jewel. Thus he became very morose, and he left and went back home. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down on the ground and began to mark the ground with his nails. This is something the gopis used to do also. Mark the dirt, the earth, with their nails. He was blinded by tears, which flowed from his eyes like the river Ganges. Mahaprabhu said, I found Krishna, the Lord of Vrindavan, but I've lost him again. Who has taken my Krishna? Where have I come? Prabhupada explains. These are the feelings of Srimati Radharani. First, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt that he had been taken to Vrindavan, where he saw Krishna's rasa dance with the gopis. But then he was brought to Kurukshetra to see Lord Jagannath, his sister Subhadra, and Lord Balaram. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lost Vrindavan and Krishna. At this time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu experienced a transcendental madness called Divyonmada. Divyonmada. It is madness in separation from Krishna. At Kurukshetra, Krishna displays his opulence, whereas in Vrindavan, he is in his original position. He never goes even one step from Vrindavan. Therefore, Kurukshetra is less important for the gopis. For the gopis. They want him in Vrindavan. They said like that. When they met him at Kurukshetra after 50 years, and he is trying to apologize, said, it's not my fault. This is the will of Providence. And the gopi said, you are Providence. What nonsense you're talking. You are Providence. Everything happens by your will. He couldn't get around it. Then he said, well, look, anyway, what's done is done. Why don't you all come back with me to where's this place? Dwarka. Dwarka, Krishna made a big city. What? How many palaces? 1,000? 16,000. 16,000 palaces. He said, I have lots of room there for you. Come. And the gopi said, no. We want you, but not there. We would feel out of place there. And all the opulence, elephants, chariots and horses, and everybody decked out, fancy clothes. He said, we'll be out of place. We want you in Vrindavan, simple village life, with the cows and the river Jamuna. This is the Krishna we want. So, although devotees who worship Krishna in opulence, which is his Vaikuntha aspect, they may prefer to see Lord Krishna at Kurukshetra. You hear that? So, although devotees who worship Krishna in opulence, in his Vaikuntha aspect, they may prefer to see Lord Krishna at Kurukshetra along with Subhadra and Balaram, but the gopis, they want to see Krishna in Vrindavan performing his rasa dance with Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed by practical example how one can cultivate the mood of Radharani and other gopis in separation from Krishna. And devotees absorbed in this mood, they do not like to see Krishna anywhere else but Vrindavan. Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lamented, I found Krishna in Vrindavan and now I've lost him again and I've come to Kurukshetra. Prabhupada continues, unless one is a very highly advanced devotee, he cannot understand these intricate feelings. The author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, however, has tried to explain this Divyonmada as far as possible. And it is our duty simply to appreciate it as far as possible. Therefore, the author has made the following request. He said, my dear readers, simply try to hear these descriptions with faith and love, and that will help you to understand transcendental ecstasy, and at least you will achieve love of Godhead very easily. On this subject of devotees not wanting to, how some devotees want to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, want to see Krishna in Kurukshetra. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he expressed in his writing, he wants to have a place there in Kurukshetra, because there Radharani and the gopis, they were in their greatest need. They wanted to see Krishna, they wanted Krishna, and he said, I want to have a place in Kurukshetra so I can serve Radharani in her greatest need, in her hour of need. So it's not a cheap thing, not a low thing. Jagannath temple is so, it's the most longest, it's the oldest temple, right, in India, where the standard of worship has been going on for so long. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dreamed of the rasa dance, he was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss. But when his dream broke, he thought he had lost a precious jewel. Thus, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would chant and dance, always absorbed in the bliss of transcendental madness. He would carry out the necessities of his body, such as eating, bathing, and sleeping, merely out of habit. He was only eating out of habit. Time to eat, okay. But when he was really absorbed in Krishna Lila, thinking of Krishna. At night, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would reveal to Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy the ecstatic feelings going on in his mind. He said, at first my mind somehow achieved the treasure of Krishna, but it lost him again. Therefore, it gave up my body and home due to lamentation and accepted the religious principles of a Kapila-like yogi. Thus my mind went to Vrindavan with its disciples, my senses. Mahaprabhu is speaking in a very poetic way. Having lost his acquired gem, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with lamentation by remembering its attributes. Thus, grasping the necks of Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar, he cried out, "Where is my Lord Hari? Where is Hari?" Finally he became restless and he lost all patience. "My dear friends," he said, "please hear of the sweetness of Krishna. Because of a great desire for that sweetness, my mind has given up all social and Vedic religious principles, and I have taken to the profession of begging, exactly like a mystic yogi." The ring of Krishna's Ras Lila, manufactured by Sukadev Goswami, who was the most auspicious craftsman, is as pure as an earring made from a conch shell. The yogi of my mind is wearing that earring upon his ear. And from a gourd, he has carved out a bowl of my aspirations. And he has taken the bag of my expectations on his shoulder. The yogi of my mind wears the torn quilt of anxiety on his dirty body, which is covered with ashes and dust. And his only words are, "Alas, Krishna." He wears 12 bangles of distress on his wrist and a turban of greed on his head. Because he has not eaten anything, he is very thin. Chaitanya purport, Prabhupada says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is comparing his mind to one of the mystic yogis. He says, there is a solitary garden where Krishna enjoys his pastimes, and in one corner of a pavilion in that garden, the yogi of my mind, along with his disciples, are practicing mystic yoga, wanting to see Krishna directly. The yogi remains awake throughout the night, meditating on Krishna, who is the super soul, uncontaminated by the three modes of nature. When my mind lost the association of Krishna and could no longer see him, my mind became depressed, and so I took up mystic yoga. In the void of separation from Krishna, he experienced 10 transcendental transformations. Agitated by these transformations, my mind has fled, leaving my body, his place of residence, empty. Thus, I am completely in a trance. This is Mahaprabhu's ecstatic mood. Prabhupada comments, in this verse, the outward activities of the Kapalika mendicants have been described, but not their actual life. The Kapalika mendicants are tantric. They're tantric materialists who walk around carrying skulls in their hands. They are not Vaishnavas. They have nothing to do with spiritual life. Therefore, they are untouchable. Only an outward comparison has been made between the mind and their activities, but their behavior should never be imitated. When the gopis felt separation from Krishna, they experienced 10 kinds of bodily transformation. And these same symptoms appeared in the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was overwhelmed day and night by these 10 ecstatic conditions. And whenever such symptoms arose, his mind became unsteady. After speaking in this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would fall silent. Then Ramananda Roy would begin to recite various verses from scripture. He recited verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, and Swarup Damodar would sing of Krishna's pastimes. In this way, they brought Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to external consciousness. So this is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent the last 12 years of his life. Just every day feeling intense separation from Krishna. I'll wrap it up with a couple more verses. After half the night had passed in this way, Swarup Damodar and Ramananda Roy once they brought him back to external consciousness, they made him lie down on his bed in the inner room. Then Ramananda Roy returned home, and Swarup Damodar Goswami, along with Govinda, would lock the doors and lay down in front of the door on the outside to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's room. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would remain awake throughout the entire night, chanting Hare Krishna mantra very loudly. After some time, when Swarup Damodar could no longer hear Mahaprabhu's chanting, he opened the door, and when he entered, he found, although the doors were locked, he found Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not there. And there was only one way to come out. But the doors were still locked, and besides, they were lying in front of the door. All the devotees were very anxious when they saw that the Lord was not in his room. So they wandered about the city, searching for him like a warning lamp. After searching for him for some time, they came upon Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lying in a corner by the northern side of the Simhadwar gate. Anyway, this chapter is just full of factual descriptions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic experiences in Jagannath Puri. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. There you go.
she said she was tired. When someone was with you. And I was praised, it was there, you know, and she's, oh no, I was there, and I said, no, I wanted to go away while you came, as soon as he came, because something will happen now, so I want to go away. I found somebody. Who? You just another call. And I said, are you okay? No, it's not okay.
Of course it's okay. People have holidays. Come on.
Yeah. I took a holiday anyway.
Well, it's a holiday thing as well. Yeah.
You want to close the grills?
Sorry?
The grills.
Ferme la grille.
Oui. Just pray for Krishna. If he's not, I don't see him anyway.